This program is brought to you by Pussy Magnets.
Put a midge on your friend with a pussy magnet.
Welcome, my lovely lumps. Or should I say lovely labs? I'm so thrilled to have you here in the Labia Lounge to yarn about all things sexuality, womanhood, holistic health, and everything in between. Your legs. Can never help myself. Anyway, we're going to have vag loads of real chats with real people about real shit. So buckle up. You're about to receive the sex ed that you never had and have a bloody good laugh while you're at it. Before we get stuck in, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm recording this, the Menang people. It's an absolute privilege to be living and creating dope podcast content on Noongar country, and I pay respect to their elders past, present, and emerging. Now, if you're all ready, let's flap and do this. Oh God, is there such thing as too many vagina jokes in the one intro? Whatever, I'm leaving it in. It's my podcast.
Don't panic, you're not broken. Your sex education was a piece of shit. Get your flaps out and pull up the couch. It's the Labia Lounge.
Ah, shit.
Far out, woman. What's got sand in your clam now?
Pew, 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 pew. Sandy my clam! Hey, my lovely labial legends. Welcome to the first ever Sand in My Clam epi, where we're going to be getting real about some of the things that really get our goat when it comes to being a woman or a vagina owner. And I don't mean we're going to be whinging about having a vag or being a woman, more that we're going to be discussing things that other people with a vagina will hopefully be able to relate to, because we've all had to deal with it as a result of living in a patriarchal society and being a woman or having a vag. So the idea of these shorter eps is, sorry, I'm just kind of like picking my nose, is that I'm going to bring on friends and just cool cats to chat about the shit that really irks us or just isn't a vibe, and maybe bring up stories from our lives about things that happen that we feel are worth talking about and that might be relatable for you. So if you have a Sand in My Clam story, and you'll start to get the picture once we start riffing, or if you just want to send me a voicey telling me something that's pissing you off lately and getting sand in your clam, this is the sort of listener participation that I highly recommend, and I'm hoping will start to snowball a bit once I start releasing these episodes. So I've got my dear friend Hannah on. Welcome, Hannah.
Thanks.
And we're actually sitting in Hannah's wardrobe right now because I got a new mic. It's dope. It means I can record an episode with multiple people in the room rather than just online. So that's pretty exciting. And we were trying to find a soundproof space. So we're in the walk-in robe. So if you can see the video, some pretty dope clothing behind me. Hannah's got a great wardrobe. And I guess to give you some context for the topic of this episode, because I basically, got incensed by this thing that happened the other day, and I sent Hannah a video and a voicey about it, and she was like, oh my God, like, yes. So to give you the backstory, we're having a barbecue at our house, and one of our mates had a stubby holder on their beer, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't her stubby holder. She probably, it was probably her partner's. It's just one of those classic kind of I don't know, souvenir-y, gimmicky type things you might find in a, I don't know, like what?
Yeah, like a smoke mart or something.
Oh, yes,
you know
exactly,
what I mean?
exactly, yeah. And so it had mind-boggling boobs, and then there was a row of these sort of cartoon depictions of women around the stubby holder with different kinds of boobs, different shapes and sizes, and then it had a name for the type of boob underneath, and it was lemons, sweet potatoes, blockbusters, which were these massive porn titties, and then has-beens, which was on an older woman, and they were saggy and pendulous, which I just found so derogatory. And then at the end, bee stings, and the bee stings were these tiny little, tiny little breasts and nipples, and the woman in the drawing looked so unhappy and ashamed and self-conscious. She was hunched over, her chest was concaved and her shoulders were rolling in, and her facial expression was just yeah, like ashamed and sad because she had these bee stings. And I was just like, oh my God, like this sort of stuff, like it doesn't seem like a big deal maybe to most on the outside, and we're so desensitized to it. But I just can't find it funny anymore. And like, you know, I was taking a video for Hannah, like of the stubby holder, and my partner was just kind of like laughing and like kind of like scoffing a little bit, like, oh, come on, like it's meant to be a joke, like it's not a big deal, like get over it, that kind of thing. And I was just like even more enraged because I was like, what the fuck? Like, how dare you? You have no idea. Like, this shit is not funny. It is absolutely damaging and insidious. And it's just like coming from this underlying culture that I've grown up in, having bee stings myself. And basically, yeah, I was pissed and I wanted to talk about it. And Hannah, who is also a small-breasted person, completely got it.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? What I just kind of don't get is like, even if it is a joke, what's the joke? Like, boobs. Is that the joke?
It's not clever.
It's really not. Like, despite the fact, or like, in addition to the fact that it's patriarchal, it's like not even. I don't know. I didn't even.
I know. And I was just like, well, sure, like, yeah, chill out, Freya. It's just meant to be a joke. It's harmless, is like the general kind of vibe that I was getting. And I was like, fuck no, it's not harmless. And also, you don't see fucking stubby holders and t-shirts with like pictures of dicks on there talking about like a tiny little fucking woodpecker or the Willy Wagtail or I don't know.
That's good.
I can't think of anything derogatory.
I know that there is a little bit of that same kind of thing in our culture of like, you know, boob sizes is like a thing that people compare and like dick sizes is a thing that people compare. But like, it's almost like there's just enough, what would you call it? Like ego or sensitivity wrapped up in that for men that it's like actually not really a joke that's pervasive in our culture, like boob size.
It's kind of out of bounds. Like you wouldn't be finding that at Smoke Mart.
Yeah, you're true. You're
Fuck
right.
no.
You're right. It's definitely kind of out of bounds. Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas like it's pretty typical that women's bodies are just this thing that are like fair game and can be used as the butt of jokes and can be depicted in all of these ways that are like ho 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 ho.
Yeah.
Which just fucking sickens me. And like growing up with really small breasts, like I absolutely like hated having small boobs. Like I considered getting a boob job when I was old enough. Like I was really fucking self-conscious about it and would, you know, wear the like hectic stuffed padded underwear bras, like, you know, all of it just to try to look as though I had more chesticles going on. And like I wouldn't have consciously thought about the impact of these sorts of like, you know, this sort of merch when I was a kid, but I remember seeing that kind of thing. There was probably way more of it in the 90s and noughties, to be honest. Like I was shocked when I saw this stubby holder because I hadn't really been exposed to anything like that for ages. And so I wouldn't have like thought much of it back then. But like I definitely remember looking at these things and just kind of like looking to find the one that looked like my body and then being really sad and disheartened and ashamed of my body because of the sort of, the derogatory way that they were being portrayed and or just like that my body type wasn't represented at all, which was like even, you know, just as bad. So.
Yeah, no, totally. And this reminds me of something that I have talked to you about before, which is the fact that in 2010, and I did look this up before we started recording because I was like, there's no way this is real. It is real. In 2010, the ABC and a couple other regulatory agencies got together and they were like, okay, we need a crackdown on like pedophilia and child pornography and all this. So the way that they decide to do this is they decide to ban small boobs, A cup and smaller, from adult entertainment and also in movies, you know, like when there's a bit of nudity in the movie, they can decide to like not show scenes if they think that the actress's boobs are too small because they thought that it was encouraging pedophilia by showing small breasts, which is crazy because what we're doing is like, number one, there's no representation for people who have small boobs. But the other thing is you're saying that small boobs is analogous for being a child. And it's a really common thing. Like, I've said it before, is like, I have small boobs, I look like a 12-year-old boy.
I've said that a lot. Yeah.
And like, you know, I get where that comes from, because I've said that before, when you're skinny and you don't have, you know, big boobs. But like, what we're basically sort of denying our own participation in womanhood because of the size of our boobs, which is crazy, because we're both like healthy, normal people. And like, the fact that we should, you know, say that we have no boobs or we're a 12-year-old boy it's weird. And it really just goes to show like how pervasive that idea has been, that breast size defines whether or not you're a woman. Even, I feel like, for two people who have actually spent a lot of time thinking about this and like unpacking this, and it's still managed to like work its way into like some of the things we say. Like, it's insane, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, oh, I have so many like things I want to say on this. So like, before I forget, I've got a few threads I want to keep like, few irons to keep in the fire. Firstly, that's absolutely fucked. Like, before you told me about that the other day, it's so fucking damaging to like not have body types like ours portrayed, and also like be called juvenile and prepubescent and like, you know, childlike. And so that's, you know, and then we're like kind of what's the word? Where I guess we're just associating like a womanly feminine body with larger boobs. So then we're automatically feeling like, you know, less of a woman, less sexy, less attractive.
Yeah.
And the other thing is like, you like brought up a while back like the language thing, which was like, even though I've totally embraced my small breasts, I'm down with it. I don't feel like self-conscious like I used to, and like body loathing and everything, and it's taken like 15 years of work, but I've gotten there. But I still noticed that some of the language I used was kind of the language I used when I did used to hate my boobs. And like, you called it out when I was like, yeah, you know, like, I've got no boobs. And you were like, yeah, I used to say that about mine as well. And I would say like, I've got no boobs. And then I realized how like minimizing and like, you know, just disrespecting my breasts and my body that was, to just deny their existence because they weren't big enough to like.
Same to be like, if you had a small nose or something and you said like, oh, I've got like no nose.
Or a small penis. Oh, God.
Oh, no penis.
Like, if you had a micro dick and you were like, I got no penis. Like,
God,
what?
no one would say that.
No one would say that.
Because it would totally like deny, I don't know, that would be awful.
It's like there's a threshold of size that it needs to be to actually qualify as a genital or like a breast, you know, like that's crazy.
It's super crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, I've never thought about it that way, but that's a good one.
Yeah. And then the other thing that completely enraged me about this whole fucking rule about not letting any, you know, A cup or smaller, size breast be like portrayed, is like the fact that then they're still allowing like completely shaved pussies with no pubic hair, which is like very prepubescent and juvenile looking, which would completely like, if they think small boobs are going to encourage pedophilia, then what do they think no pubic hair is going to do?
Totally.
Like, Jesus.
Totally.
Like, there's no adult that has no pubic hair naturally, whereas there's heaps of women that naturally don't have a lot of breast tissue.
Yeah, you're so right. You are so right about this. And it just kind of goes to show you, is it really about stopping pedophilia, or does it just kind of like, you know, is it more in line with like the male gaze and like, oh, well, yeah, I guess no pubic hair is kind of childlike, but like, we like it, so let's just keep it. You know what I mean?
Totally. And also, like, on that, the whole legislation around inner labia and like the pink bits in like media and porn and magazines and stuff, like you're not allowed to show the pink bits or the inner labia. So they just have to be like outer labia and then a slit down the middle. That's it. You can't see any of the like floral kind of inner labia blossoming out. It's got to be an innie. So then people are getting labiaplasty. They're fucking, you know, they're airbrushing the sort of photos and things in magazines to look as though these women don't have any inner labia. And that's that's pretty juvenile, because like a lot of people never grow the larger inner labia, and maybe they're vulva does continue looking like an innie. But then a lot of people do grow more floral inner labia and have an outie, but that only happens after puberty. So basically, like, the prepubescent vulva is always an innie. So that's just, like, again, contradicting the entire reasoning behind, like, yeah.
It's extremely flawed. It's extremely flawed. And this isn't like a hard and fast rule. Like, these days, they will, like, look at something and decide if it's too childlike, but small boobs is, like, one of the reasons they can use to remove something.
Yeah.
But in 2010, when it happened, it was, like, sort of more of a blanket rule. And I remember at the time I was, like, 15 and I was camping. And I don't know how I heard about this. I don't know if there was, like, a camp kitchen with, like, a little TV or something. And I climbed this tree, like, by myself. And I, like, cried at the top of this tree because I was like, I have small boobs. And my boobs are not allowed in porn, which when I was 15, I thought that was, like, extremely devastating.
Oh my god.
And you know what? It kind of is devastating because if you don't have, like, representation of all bodies in adult content, but also just, like, you know, in general
movies
content,
and yeah.
then when you see someone with small boobs, you're gonna think that it's like, oh, like, whoa, her boobs are small, or like, that's not womanly, because all the women you've seen, like, all of the actresses and, you know, actually, we were talking about this, there are actresses with small boobs, so we were like, yeah.
Oh, but, like, not many. Like, I remember as a teenager when I saw, there was, I can remember there was literally, like, 2 actresses that I noticed, and that was it, that had, like, smaller breasts and, like, flatter chests like me, and I was over the fucking moon about it. I just adored them because I was like, oh my god. And it was Kate Hudson and Keira Knightley, and they didn't, like, get boob jobs. They didn't wear, like, push-up bras to make it look like they had boobs, and that was actually just so unusual, especially back then. That was just, like, never happened. I couldn't believe it when I saw them in the movies, or, like, saw photos of them at, like, you know, some fucking Hollywood event, and they hadn't tried to make it look like they had boobs. Like, they were proudly just flat-chested, and I was just, like, so stoked and empowered by that.
Yeah.
But there wasn't enough of it at all.
No, there totally wasn't. And I feel like there was I don't know if it probably still happens today, because I don't really wear my bras much these days. Like, I feel like there was way more of a culture around, like, push-up bras and boob jobs.
Yeah.
Whereas now it seems to be more like lace bralettes and, like, you know, sort of, like, more softer shapes. You know what I mean? Where it used to be, like, these, like, big, like, cups. Like, I used to wear 2 padded bras, one on top of the other, so that I had, like, double pad, which was extremely sweaty.
Oh my god,
in the summertime. Yeah, it's insane. So, yeah, I guess I'm kind of, like, happy that maybe that's not the mainstream idea anymore, but it just goes to show you, like, we think, like, oh yeah, things have come a long way, but then you see that stubby holder and you're like,
not that far.
No,
and also, like, maybe they've come a long way in certain circles that we are now swimming in, but in other like parts of mainstream culture, definitely the boob job is still and more, like, you know, the lip job and the labiaplasty and the fucking all the different things. And then if you go to, like, Brazil or somewhere like that, like, dude, they're getting butt jobs and boob jobs as soon as they turn 16. Like, it is crazy. Yeah. So it's, like, definitely still very, very much a thing. And, like, what you're saying about just not seeing your body type represented. I feel like they've gotten a lot better at representing, like, more full-figured body types and things like that. But it made me think of something else I've noticed and I've always picked up on, because, like I was saying before, like, you see like one of those depictions of, like, all the different types of bodies or all the different types of vulvas or breasts, and you're, like, automatically looking for the one that looks like yours for, like, validation and affirmation that you're normal and being like, oh, you know, it's not just curiosity. It's like, where the fuck am I? Like, am I okay? And I sort of saw a trend of, like, heaps of these little, just, like, basically, like, a few lines, very, very simple cartoon drawings of breasts. And they would have, like, such a variety. They'd have, like, you know, the mastectomy with the one scar from the breast being removed from cancer, and then they'd have, like, really saggy ones and really different sized sort of asymmetrical ones, and big nipples and small nipples, and pointing outwards, pointing inwards. And there was, like, small ones in there, but there was never like a drawing with they always had a little,
they always had like a
little curvy under boob line. or a little like side or cleavage, and I'm just like, where's the one that just is literally like 2 nipples and no lines around it? Like, I have underboob, I've got no fucking shadowing or curvature there. It's literally just like they're stuck to the front of my chest without like enough like weightiness or body to have any kind of underboob line, even in a cartoon drawing. And so I'm always looking at it like, damn, those like the smallest breasts on that picture are still like more than a handful. Like
easy. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I just,
Crazy.
I feel like there's lots of,
that pisses me off as well. Every time I see those little cartoons, I was saying to Freya like the other day, I actually stopped following one of these body positive cartoonists because all of the boobs and the bodies that she drew, none of them had small boobs. And I was like, I don't need more of this shit in my life. Give me a cartoonist that draws some small boobs.
I know.
Yeah. And you've actually just reminded me of a thing. I don't know if you remember this. This was maybe like, I want to say 2014. That's like a rough guess. There was like this viral challenge that went live, and it was like, can you take a pen or a pencil and hold it under your boob?
Oh.
When I saw that, mind was blown, because I was like, cool, if you hold a pencil up to a wall and let go.
That's me. That's my chest.
Push my boobs down and squish and try and hold. Like, there's nothing there.
Oh my God.
And that made me madly depressed. Like, watching that.
Same.
Excuse the interruption, my loves, but I'm shamelessly seeking reviews and 5-star ratings for the potty because, as I'm sure you've noticed by now, it's pretty fab. And the more people who get to hear it, the more people it can help. Reviews and ratings help me curry favour with the algorithmic gods and get suggested to other listeners to check out. Plus, they make me feel really good and appreciated as I continue to pour my heart and soul into creating this baby for you. And I promise I don't mazz over them or anything. I mostly just tuck them away for a rainy day when I'm filled with self-doubt and existential dread about being self-employed, which is fairly frequently. So you see, leaving a review really does make a difference, and it's an easy little act of support that you can take in just a minute or two by either going to Spotify and leaving 5 stars for the show, or writing a written review and leaving 5 stars over on Apple Podcasts. Choose your poison, or if you're a real overachiever, you could do both. Whoa now. If you are writing a review though, just be sure to only use G-rated words, because despite the fact that this is a podcast about sexuality, words like sex can be censored and your review won't actually show up. Lame. Anyway, oh, what was that? Oh, you're going to go do it right now while I wait. Okay. Yeah. No, that's a great idea. May as well just quickly click that 5-star button before we get on with it and, forget about it and get on with your day. I'm hearing them roll in. I'm hearing those 5 stars. Oh my God, I make myself cringe. Anyway, thank you much, Lee. You're a total gem, and I'll let you get back to the episode now.
What kind of challenge is this?
Yep, same, absolutely. And I feel like it was in Legally Blonde or something. Like there was like a whole scene with like the cleavage and being able to tuck things into your cleavage, and I just I was always so like down on myself after seeing things like that, and I was just like, what the fuck? Like I never have a hope in hell of being able to, and I also as I was going through puberty and kind of growing older, I was like, my boobs are going to grow in. Like one day, mum's got boobs. Yep, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And by the time I got to 17 or 18, I was like, I actually just think this is it. I think this is my body. I don't think I'm ever going to grow big enough boobs to fill basically an A cup even. Or hold a pencil.
Yeah.
So
as if your boobs need to be holding pencils. But yeah, no, I super get it. And I'm going to a little bit steal your line here.
Yeah.
But we were kind of talking about the episode that you recorded with Tuck, and they were talking about being misgendered, and they were saying, it's like a small thing. Someone misgenders you. It's not like the end of the world. It doesn't define you. But every time you get these little microaggressions against you, it's like someone scratching you in the same spot. So imagine if someone scratches you, let's say 5 times a day in the same spot for 10 years, you're going to have a big, disgusting, infected sore there. And this is kind of what this really ridiculous stubby holder feels like, where it's like, no, I don't look at the stubby holder and go, well, I guess that stubby holder is the one true version of reality.
Yeah.
But like that stubby holder is one of, I don't know, 200 things I've seen this month that tell me that my body isn't conventionally attractive.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so I think maybe that's more what we're getting sanded our clam about here, is this weird sort of insidious, like, pervasiveness from your really, like, bogan stubby holder all the way to, like, the, like, progressive, body positive artist. None of them are having, like, small boob representation. Like, it seems minor, but like across when you look across the spectrum and you don't see yourself represented anywhere, like you know, you start to think, is there something wrong with me?
Yeah,
and it's shit.
It's just like, that's why I get like doubly pissed off when I feel a feeling about something like this. I have a reaction to this, you know, say the stubby holder, and then someone like my super fucking conventionally attractive, godly looking partner, bless him, but fuck, he's had a pretty easy trot looking like that. Don't think he's ever had any fucking body consciousness. Dude's a rig. Yeah, and he's just like, oh, come on, like, it's not a big deal, chill out. Yeah. And I'm like, cunt, what? Like, dude, it's not about the stubby holder. It is about an entire fucking culture, like a lifetime of microaggressions and tiny little things that just send me this subliminal message. Just this message. I don't know. What does subliminal mean? Did I use that correctly?
Yeah, I think so. It's like subconscious.
Brainwashy. I'm thinking of Zoolander when they were like brainwashing him with subliminal messages through the song. God, I bet that movie didn't age well and there would be heaps of shit in there that made us feel like shit.
There would be.
Yeah. I mean, it was about models. Anyway, it's just like this kind of, it's like the median, like it's like we're goldfish swimming in this water and the water is just constantly slightly the wrong pH or the temperature, and it's creating these like, these wounds or these imbalances. That was a really clumsy metaphor, but basically I'm swimming around just my entire life and there's 1,000,001 different things that are all telling me that I'm wrong and I'm ugly and I'm hideous and I'm not womanly enough or I'm not sexually attractive. No one's going to want me and my boobs are fucking non-existent and like a 12-year-old boy or mosquito bites or whatever. And it's just like so normalized and so sometimes so subtle and sometimes really explicit. But it's always been there. Like, it's always been there.
So constant.
I feel annoyed when someone tries to minimize that and be like, oh, like, whatever, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Because it's like, hang on, you haven't spent your whole fucking life getting scratched in that same spot.
Yeah.
You know, to the point where you just feel so much self-loathing and self-consciousness about your body and your validity as a fucking, like, woman and a person in the world. So, yeah, I think it's like super important to like talk about the fact that like, no, we're not overreacting. Like, and that's like kind of, I just made the soundbite for these episodes this morning and I was like, I got lucky to do the male vocals and I was like, all right, sound like a misogynistic fucking like bogan cunt. Sound like a boyfriend who's just sick to death of hearing his like woman whinge about shit that he doesn't think is a big deal, because that is exactly what this entire segment is going to be about from now on, is like more or less these kind of, these like subtle microaggressions that like people don't put enough stock in. And so he, you know, I guess I'll put the soundbite at the start of this episode so you will have already heard it. But I was just like, I'm going to be like, I've got Sandy My Clam about something. And he is going to be like, fucking what now? What are you bloody getting your knickers in a knot about now? Like that kind of vibe, because that's another thing that makes it even worse is like we see these things or have these feelings or reactions and then someone pretty much inevitably tells us to fucking shut up because it's not a big deal and we should just get over it.
Yeah, and the thing is, that stubby holder, no, that one thing is not a big deal, but like times it by 1,000, it's now a massive deal, and I'm pissed about it.
Especially to like young us. Like I'm sweet now. I can see that and be like, cool, like that doesn't affect me. I don't look at that and go, oh my God, I'm hideous. But like me as a teenager who's like feeling so awkward and self-conscious in my body and just like bombarded by so much of that in the mainstream media, like I did not have the knowledges or the empowerment within me or the inner resources to like be able to combat that. Like that all sunk in and sent this like message to my subconscious that like I was fucking gross.
Yeah, totally. And I want to add one more thing before we finish up, which is one thing that I've just been thinking about since we were talking about this the other day is like, I remember when I started trying to like be a bit more, you know, like body neutral or body positive. And one of the things you hear is like, oh, small boobs, they're great. Your back doesn't hurt and you can run without a bra. So, you know, like true, and both extremely great things that I make use of.
Same.
What I don't like about that is it's like, oh, well, they don't look good, but you can
At
run
least they're
without a bra.
practical.
Like you never hear the narrative of like, oh, small boobs, yeah, they're not as big as that, but like they're extremely hot because you look like an extremely sexy pixie when you're naked, which is what I've decided I look like when I'm naked. And I look at my boobs now, I'm like, they look great. But like at the start I was like, oh, well, they don't look good, but at least I can run with a bit more freedom.
Same.
Which is such a like faux empowering kind of statement. And I really, I really didn't like that.
Totally.
Sort of narrative that like, unless you conform to the way of being conventionally attractive, you can't feel great about the way that you look. You can just sort of like feel good about, you know, other things, but that's not one of them.
Yeah. Oh, that's like, I had not even like thought about that, and you pointed that out because I use that as I'm like, yep, I'm sweet with my breasts now. Like I like them and I don't feel self-conscious about them anymore. And like, I love the fact that I can, you know, run without a bra, and I don't really like have to worry about some of the things that my friends with larger breasts complain about. But I was very much focusing on like the practical side of it. It's like, oh, like, yeah, like they don't look as womanly or sexy, but like at least they're practical.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'd ever really like articulated that or realized I was still thinking in that line of thought. But like, I think I kind of was. I was like, well, yeah, I've accepted them and they're fine. But like, I guess I wouldn't mind a bit more of a handful, because then they would look a little bit more, you know. But I have definitely over the last like couple of years, especially, I think it has the final piece for me was like being in a really beautiful, like loving, supportive relationship with someone who really loves my boobs.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, oh yeah, no, they actually can be very sexy and people can be really into them. And that's kind of, again, like, well, it sucks that we need the validation of like the male gaze or like a partner to actually make us feel like it's okay. But like, fuck it. It was definitely a beautiful piece in my healing.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Like the first time I realized someone could be attracted to my boobs, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even think it was possible.
Yeah.
You know? And like, you see this for pretty much like all the underrepresented like body types and different body variations you can have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Cool. Well, I feel like I've got it all out of my system.
Me too. I actually feel like we've had so many good thoughts, like in talking about this like a couple of days ago and now, don't you think? I'm like, wow, I've really wrapped my head around this extremely fucking annoying issue. You know?
I feel like I was way more articulate in the first one. So just for everyone's information, we recorded this episode a few days ago and like somehow just fucked it up, and it was the recording was completely unusable, and it was devastating, and I was ovulating then, so I was really firing like on all cylinders, and now I'm just like super grouchy and like my brain's not working at all. So, you know, I think it's fine. I think you did a great job, and
I think it was good.
But it was very like, it's so hard to try to have basically the same conversation and make sure you touch on all the points that you said last time, because you're like, oh, I loved how I said that last time, and you're trying to remember that, and then it's like less organic. But anyway, the next one we do will be totally organic. And if this hasn't worked, I'm gonna fucking that's gonna get so much sand in my clam.
Yeah, no, that can be its own episode then.
Yeah, tech issues fucking kill me. All right, love you everyone. Thanks for joining us for our first ever episode of Sand in My Clam. And another reminder, if you've got an example of something that gets sand in your clam, let me know. Thanks, Hannah.
Bye.
Bye.
And that's it, darling hearts. Thank you for stopping by the Labia Lounge. Your bum groove in the couch will be right where you left it, just waiting for you to sink back in for some more double L action next time. And in the meantime, if you'd be a dear and subscribe, share this episode, or leave a review on iTunes, then you can pat yourself on the snatch, because that, my dear, is a downright act of sex-positive feminist activism.
And you'd be supporting my vision to educate, empower, demystify, and destigmatize with this here podcast. Also, I'm always open to feedback, topic ideas that you'd love to hear covered, or guest suggestions. So feel free to get in touch via my website at freyagraph.com or say hey over on Insta. My handle is Freya_graph_YMT, and I seriously hope you're following me on there because damn, we have fun. We have fun. Anyway, later labial legends. I'll see you next time.